Hi, this is Abdul Aziz Khan with my today's commentary on headlines of some news channels. So we start with CNN. So we can see that now American Police Union is also getting involved because on one side there are people and the other side there are police officers. So even I will also take a bit of side of these police guys because we know that basically these things don't exactly need you to catch a sample of guys and even to hang them or whatever. Because if you just take one or two guys and you just hang them, it will not change a lot because maybe it will bring some kind of reaction in the police department. Firstly, it needs very big reforms. Things should be exactly written because the people who are handling on the field, we know that they are not doing everything on their own. They are fully in contact with the command and control center, and they are getting instructions from their higher ups, and those instructions they are not written or they are not maybe fully recorded as well, or I don't know if someone has looked into that or not. First, what they need is that there should be reforms. There should be written things like, for example, you can do this, you cannot do this. You can go up to what extent and what kind of situations. These things should be very clear. A police officer should very well know that how he can respond to an emergency. And then if he has gone beyond that, then he should be dealt very harshly. Like in this scenario, in this case of George Floyd, a person got killed. So this is, I can say that this is a kind of simpler case because no one is allowed to kill a person who is, he was already handcuffed. A handcuffed person was killed by police. So this is very, very wrong. But can a police officer use this neck on knee on neck? Is he allowed to do it or he's not allowed to do it? This kind of reforms are the thing which is basically required. So even if you see these current one or two news, like for example, this black man heard saying I cannot breathe during fatal Texas arrest. So even during this protest, still we can see that things is being repeated in the almost in the same way. So there is no practically no change on police side. Police is not going to change anything that easily. It has to come from the above. The people who are sitting on the top, they should give them actual exact commands that you should do it or you should not do it. Another news you read here, 8-year-old boy handcuffed by NYPD for carrying a stick. I mean, an 8-year-old boy was carrying what type of a stick that he has to be handcuffed, and he was a boy or he was a kind of, he was hulk of a boy that even the whole police were afraid that if this boy is left, he can do, I don't know, he can do what. So this kind of mindset basically needs to be changed, that you cannot use very brutal type of force against these kind of things. The 8-year-old boy, he can just be, I mean, you can just catch his hand and he will not be able to run. I mean, the police guys are very trained and very uh, I mean, we cannot compare an 8-year-old boy with anyone in the police. I mean, so what kind of behavior is this? So let's go a bit, find some other things. So we can see that another mysterious radio burst in space is repeating a pattern. So someone from the space is sending a pattern to us. So let's send these two, three guys of like of these guys uh, to go in the space and find this guy who is sending this to us. So maybe this will help us in two things. If they bring the person who is doing, who is sending this burst, of repeating pattern, then it should be a great discovery. Otherwise, if we can get rid of these, then this should be a kind of another great thing for us. So this is a news that I was looking for from 5 6 days. So it has just arrived that nearly half of US states see jumps in coronavirus. When these protests started, the people who love the conspiracy theory, they start chanting that see this coronavirus is a hoax because there are protests, there are people who are with each other and there is no distancing, but still the virus is not spreading fast. I mean, I was very confused to see the number one is that US already have a very big number. When you have a very big number, that number cannot jump. I mean, you have a very fat guy, the fat guy cannot jump. Fat guy only can only move a bit. I mean, and Corona is not like it's not like something which just kills you instantly kind of thing. I mean, it's not a magic. If you catch corona, it takes some days. It takes 10 days, 14 days to show some kind of symptoms. And you need to be tested to know that if you have it or you don't have it. So it was not like you start protesting or you'll start mingling and it shoots up. No, it's not happened like that. So now we know that, or we can see that yes, there was something brewing, and now if there is a jump, then very sure that this jump is because of these protests. Even though the protesters are, we can see here this person is wearing a gloves, so they are using some kind of SOPs. But still, it was for sure that this thing will give rise to the cases. And also this one thing from WHO that asymptotic spread is very rare. So we can see that generally if people are asymptotic, then the spread is also very rare. So most of the people who should have come out, they should be asymptotic. Otherwise, if a person is already coughing or is already having a bad time, then how he can come out on a protest? But still we can see that yes, there is a jump and now everyone who was in protest, he should feel some, he should take some rest of 14 days and live in his house. So Airbnb is making a huge comeback. So let's see what kind of comeback. Florida police offers to hire cops who were fired or resigned over misconduct. So this is very strange. I mean, you are giving a kind of applause or you are praising the people who do misconduct. Then how can you show that? I think there is a big divide going on within the US, which is very, very bad. I mean, for the country, because this kind of divide, it will become very difficult for the country to hold to itself, and eventually it can make a kind of breaking apart of the unity, because if some people they should start fully backing up the white guys, then the black guys they should have at last no other option then that they should say okay, if you cannot keep us with you, then we should be separate. So this is, I think this is not good. And like now there are some people who are donating money to Black Lives Matter, some people are donating money to White Lives Matter. So at the end, you should have to separate black and whites, and this should not be good for a beautiful country like USA. So this cruise ship carrying a lot of guys, after 6 months, they are found to make some place home. So good luck for them. At last, they found a place of earth to put their feet on. So New Zealand will start tourism again. They get rid of Corona. Now they will bring more Corona people from outside so that they can again get some kind of corona with them. So if we go further, Apple is looking into making socially distant group selfies. So these kind of things should happen. I mean, you should deal the thing with uh, a problem is there and a problem is not going anywhere. So we must start to learn that how to deal with it. So Moscow also said to ease the lockdown restriction, and North Korea halts all communication with the South. So I don't know what is in the mind of Kim, but he is, I think, he's not in a good mood. George Floyd murder suspect bail set at 1.25 million. So these white people, they will arrange 1.25 million. That is not a big problem. But COVID-19 changed the big fat Indian weddings. So at least something good coming out of this COVID. So everything has something good or bad in it. So even COVID-19 is not 100% bad. It has something good in it. So Democrats kneel in silence for George Floyd, even though they also don't care about him, but they do care about the next elections, which are very important for everyone, at least for these two guys. Now this is Nurdur saying that in Pakistan, record 105 deaths and fifth day streak of more than 4,000 new cases. So this corona is being very hard on Asia, but people are not understanding this. This is the big problem. So China is saying no ethnic group should be left behind. So China and Bangladesh also doing something good. She is inspecting Yellow River and going to different places, talking to people. I'm not a fan of China, but we can see this guy. He's meeting with people a lot, ordinary people, and meeting them personally. This is something that all the world leaders should do, even though if they are not fully 100% convinced, but they should do it just for even for the saving of their face, maybe. For face saving, even they should do it. Because this makes a big difference in the minds of the people. So now Beijing also clears all domestically transmitted cases. So now only cases need to be quarantined. Now Britain is asking the people to self-isolate for 14 days. Now self-isolate is a tricky word. I mean, you are leaving the isolation on that guy. Maybe he can isolate himself or not. Maybe he has the money to do it or not. So this can be a tricky thing. Maybe you send someone to isolate and he don't isolate himself, then what should you do? I mean, you're taking a big risk. So Al Jazeera is also start from George Floyd. Brazil toll is also soaring on very high numbers, and Bollywood actors are trolled and slammed because, for example, the troller they are using two reasons. One, they are saying that all of these actors they come in the fairness cream ads. So on one side they support this skin fairness, and the other side, how come they are supporting this racial discrimination? Why they support a fair skin? And the other thing is that even in their own country, like in India, there's a lot of atrocities going on about For example, the Muslims because of cow slaughtering, or for the Christians and for other religions. And these people, they never said anything about these kind of atrocities which is going on in their own country. So if you don't have the courage to speak about that atrocities, then you should not be speaking about this as well. It's a kind of hypocrisy. So they are being trolled on internet for being a hypocrite. This is very global warming, very big news, I think. But what can Pakistan or some small country do? Because we know that Pakistan is the home of three big glaciers outside the Antarctica region, and because of the rising temperature, these glaciers, they are melting fast, so they can bring some flash floods, or should not be good. I mean, so now even this George Floyd has given a kind of reason to everyone. Now, even in Kenya, people are protesting against the police. In Mali, they are probing civilian killings. So even in the black areas, a lot of debate has started. Pakistan and US hold talks on restarting intra-Afghan peace talks. This is, I think, very strange. I mean, when US has already done an agreement with Afghans, so what these two countries are doing in this? I mean, Afghans should be left to decide on their own what they want to do. This is their country, and everyone knows now very, very clearly that you cannot come from outside and you can try to control Afghans. I mean, if you are outside, it's better that you remain outside. Let them decide how they want to run their country. So George Floyd is here as well on Reuters, and Vietnam also plan to resume flights. And Hong Kong leader warns protesters that city cannot afford more chaos. So COVID-19 deaths and number of cases still going on and on. And we can see that Brazil is going very top. IBM exits facial recognition business, calls for police reform. This is like kind of good news that okay, we should not help you with your wrong things. So I think this is a very good sign from IBM that they should not help police in racial profiling of the people. So Hong Kong government released 5 billion rescue package to Cathay Pacific. So these kind of big giants, I don't know why they need this much of big money. I mean, if they had to stop everything for 2-3 months, I mean, this may not have cost this much money to them. But I don't know. I mean, if they are doing it, then there should be some big reason. So American police reform is the main news, and this thing is spreading in the world as well, and I think it's a good thing. I think this reform should be done everywhere. We see that apart from some 2-3 very good countries, usually police is seen as a terror kind of thing. Yet all the peace-loving guys also, when they say see police, then they are terrorized. Police should bring a terror in the heart of the bad people only, but it brings a terror in the heart of the good people as well. This should be changed, and should be changed very fast and with very accurate reforms. So see you tomorrow with my tomorrow's headline. Goodbye.